Hi, everybody, and we're live. I hope you're all well. I just want to say it now before anything happens technologically. My StreamYard keeps going weird on me and kind of muting my mic. And it keeps doing it. So if that persists or becomes a problem throughout this stream, I'm just going to have to leave it off and kind of abandon it. It's telling me to maybe restart my browser. I don't know. It's too late for any of that. It either kind of works now or it doesn't. So do let me know if you're getting me, if you're getting a 5x5 here and all of that as well while we're at it. So it still hasn't, it kept just muting itself. I'm waiting for it to do it now. So it's kind of disconcerting. I'll be like halfway through spieling and it's just going to go mute and I'll end up talking for about 15 minutes to myself. So that's going to be how it is. I hope you're all well anyway. And I will just continue and I'll keep half an eye on the chat once in a while just to make sure it doesn't go dodge. So how is the chat? Let's see what this is around the time where I can actually look at the chat and see what you've said. Because towards the end, it's just so full of stuff that I can't make anything head nor tail of it. I'm asked here, have I come across Plandemic? I have seen people have sent it to me and stuff like that. And again, I say this with all due respect to people who sent it to me. I'm not trying to disrespect you as a person because I don't know you anyway, probably, right? But I find it hard to bring myself to watch it. I suppose I will watch it in the interest of journalism or of just generally being informed about stuff. I suppose I should. My instinct is not to. I just don't feel like that's my thing. But I suppose seeming as this is a topic that comes up and I have a lot of people who I kind of rub shoulders with some people who listen to that stuff. I should watch it. Plandemic. It's like the Nazis again or something. I've heard things on the grapevine about it, but I don't know, man. Things like that. Just I had the argument for about 2 or 3 weeks on the pandemic, but at this point, it's almost like an aesthetic or a cultural or personal decision for me. I'm almost at the point where it's like, even if there was some stuff to do with the pandemic, I wouldn't want to hear this kind of like conspiratorial stuff about it from those types of people. I would want to hear, I'm just too far gone on that now. I can't listen anymore to stuff about that. And even a word like plandemic, this kind of language and stuff. I'm like I said a few weeks ago when I was streaming about the COVID thing, just that, like, I don't know where anybody got their wires crossed, but I'm a normal person in the sense that I'm not I'm a normal person who happens to want less immigration and less like pause and weird stuff going on and, all of that. But I don't believe in every last thing being fake and conspiratorial. And, some people do believe that everything is a big conspiracy. And I was making the point that, like, if you got the impression that we were the same thing, then that was a mistake. It doesn't mean you can't listen to me. It doesn't mean I can't like you or get on or whatever, but just in terms of worldview, there's a little bit of a mismatch there. And I might watch Plandemic, or I'm not afraid of being told a certain fact or anything like that. I'm just saying in general, it's become apparent to me that in general, there's a certain group of people with whose worldview mine cannot quite overlap with, and for whatever reason that is, I don't know. So a thing like Plandemic reeks of that to me, but I'll give it a watch. So what else is being said? I actually like doing this. This is much more a reading chat. Someone says they were falling asleep, took the dog for a walk, and they're wide awake now. And I don't say your name because I can't pronounce it. William Joy says Keith Woods' Twitter account has been deactivated. Yeah, that's very interesting. So as far as I can tell, he deactivated that himself after having said a bunch of I suppose a bunch of stuff, anti-Israel stuff, pro-Palestine, anti-Zionism. I mean, basically anti-Jewish. I think that's probably fair to say. That would probably be a self-described. I don't think I'm caricaturing that, but anti whatever you want to call it, right? All of that, and a bunch of some big, like the leader of the Israeli Jewish Congress was like singling Keith out, on Twitter and all of this. So he's taken down his account for now. That's all very interesting. I could speak to that, but the other night I started talking about Michael Gove's bookshelf, and I ended up like an hour later having to private the stream and take it down because I was afraid YouTube's algorithm would ban my channel or something. And I wasn't saying anything controversial. I was saying perfectly ordinary things, but just the buzzwords, words such as Irving, words such as words that begin with H, stuff like that. Just those words in isolation put your channel at risk. So anyway, so I don't know, I'm reluctant to get into it too much now. This channel is not really the place, but one thing I will say about that is that whole debate that's been going on Twitter. So you've Keith Woods and this Paul Joseph Watson thing, and all of this kind of debate. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a kind of internecine argument on the right. There goes that thing that always falls. But it's like an internecine argument on the quote unquote. I hope you can hear me. Okay. Oh, cool. I got the fear there. No, I had been muted. No, I'm still good. Internecine battle debate on the right, a certain portion of the right. Oh no, it's internecine within the dissident right. So this isn't all the right. On a more specific right, we're talking about the dissident right. So everywhere from everything that isn't like, what would you call it? What's his name? Mitt Romney and John McGurk and blah, blah, blah. Anything outside of that, the more younger, relevant kind of right. And it's this kind of thing of like, well, to advance kind of European interests or, European peoples or natives in Western countries, to advance their interests. I can see, again, I can't get too much into it, but basically people saying, hey, why would you criticize Israel? Let's just leave it or whatever. And someone like Keith and some of the TRS kind of fellas and guys like that, Eric Stryker would be another, people like that are saying that criticizing Israel is key to it. I even noticed Way of the World, who is another very good YouTube name. He was saying something to the effect of like, I should really I didn't prepare for this, so I can't remember, but something, he was taking the opposite position to, let's say, the Keats. He was saying, well, let's just leave it or something like that, or God, I have forgotten it now. I should really look it up. But that's going on at the moment anyway. And I have to say, I kind of come down on the side of the Keith kind of side of it in general, not in every regard, but the one thing for me is that there's a sort of Zionist influence in based nationalist kind of right-wing circles, right? And if that connection were just that, hey, the Zionists just want to be nationalists in Israel, I don't know, and so they share your interests and just that's all, that would be fine. But I don't know, it does seem to be this kind of let's just put it this way, it seems to be a stumbling block within dissident right circles, kind of European ones. There's only so far I can talk about this stuff. I'm kind of gagged a little bit and it makes it actually hard to speak about. But this whole idea of just kind of being, and I'm talking about in terms of rhetoric and politics now, this whole thing of peaceful coexistence, like they're based, we're based, we get on, I don't think that's tenable. So I don't agree with everything the likes of Keith is saying, but I do agree with a kind of and again, I can't use a word like purge. Of course, I'm talking about politically speaking all times. People want to misinterpret me. The idea of, even if some of what a guy like Keith is talking about is putting it in a really radical way or whatever, just bringing that confrontation to the fore and just making it kind of so that, like, listen, if you're pro-Israel and anti-Palestinian, and you're pro kind of cleaning out the Palestinians from that area, which I know today there's some more news about thousands more settlers moving out onto into Palestinian territory, and it's being backed by the US. I do think just getting that done and just taking a stance on that, I think to be neutral is not good enough on a thing like that. I don't know. You would have to go to these people for their own arguments, but my general feeling is that I come down on it. I just think there's too much negative influence from this kind of whole Zionist wing of the kind of nationalist right, that you might as well, even if you don't even have a sincere opinion on Israel Palestine, you might as well feign a pro-Palestinian opinion just to kind of cut that cord. It's a good way of doing it. That way they will, the kind of Zionist crowd, cut the cord for you because they're the ones who are offended. You go, oh, you're offended? Okay, well, go away then. Bye. It's a kind of, I don't know if that's putting it clearly enough, but that's kind of how I feel about it. It's not necessarily to me about Palestine or any of that. It's just a handy way to say, hey, it's probably more popular to be pro-Palestine in the general world, especially in Ireland. So there's that. And then there's also just this kind of influence that's all over the place. Look at the counter-jihad movement, the Pamela Gellers, the Robert Spencers, the Gatestone Institutes, all these things. The Western kind of right, nationalist right, is shot through with this Zionist influence, this Zionist kind of, hand gotten it by the balls type of thing. It always has a kind of almost like a veto, and the Zionist wing of Western nationalism seems to always use its veto when it comes to self-preservation for Western countries. It always seems to be the one that you look at someone like Hazoni in the US, and people like that trying to kind of almost redirect a solid form of nationalism into what do they call it? It's called national conservatism, kind of stuff like that. And so it's like, better off just kind of burning that bridge, or letting that crowd burn the bridge by saying, well, it's kind of like, okay, Zionist nationalist friend, you can be part of our group, or you can say you're part, you go along with some of our stuff if you want, but by the way, we're pro-Palestine, so up to you. Let you burn the bridge, right? And that type of thing. So that's the only angle I kind of, that's why I come down on that side of, if someone were to come out and say, I mean, what's even the point of having a position on Israel Palestine? So they're not having a Zionist position, they're just saying, let's have no position. And I'm like, I do think, well, actually, maybe actively taking the Palestinian position, as well as an objective view of the situation, even aside from that, just as a way to burn that bridge amicably. Well, not amicably. I don't know, does that make sense? The Don says, Keith will appear in front of a screen reading an uncharacteristically pro-Israel speech in a few hours, explaining his errors. And any apparent fear will only be your imagination. Yeah, I'd say Keith is probably deep in the jungles of Argentina right now, with a massive beard and etc. But yeah, that's kind of my take on that whole thing. It's like, well, people say, why bother having a position on a pro-Palestine position? Why not have no position? But you can easily reverse that question. You can just say, well, why not have a pro-Palestinian position? Like that whole kind of why not thing is a kind of a, I don't know, it's just as neutral a position. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's not really my thing, this stuff. But generally speaking, I do think this element, I have to very much choose my words carefully because you do get misinterpreted. Everything is called a canard and a trope if you're speaking about this stuff. So I have to use very kind of anodyne language. I think anything to separate. That's not that Zionists are having their own form of nationalism. That's their business, right? But just to kind of a nice, friendly way to put the ball in their court and go, do you really want to have anything to do with us? Because we don't support your ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. So, I don't know. So make what you will of it. So I had I'm going to see what else is in the chat, actually. I really feel like doing this tonight because I have a bunch of tabs on human trafficking in Ireland, but I kind of feel like just reading the chat and asking questions. I don't know. You can maybe let me know what y'all's think yourselves. Last True Gale says, oh wait, that was from a while back. Yeah. William Joy said, Paul Joseph Watson said Netanyahu is Chad and declared himself a Zionist. I think he was trolling, or it was his effort to look like he was trolling, at least to kind of go, hey, I'm just having fun here. I'm not serious. You know, I don't know what that was, but it was very strange. I saw that on Twitter. For those who don't know what's going on here, I'm sorry. It's a kind of a niche subject, I suppose. Galileo Irish Nationalism says, I ban all pro-Zionist and anti-Zionist debate in my Facebook groups because it causes division. See, again, I understand the point of view that, like, well, why it causes division, but so do loads of other things, right? I mean, it does cause division. I know that one is a big deal, but at the same time, you know, you could say that about almost anything. Like, why does it cause so much division? In a way, the fact that it causes so much division in nationalist circles almost answers my question or speaks to my point. Why would your pro or anti position on a Middle Eastern conflict, or whatever you would call it, why would that be such a divisive subject that you would have to ban it on a Western nationalist Facebook group? Well, is that because our nationalist movement has a kind of a shot through, an element of our movement is shot through with Palestinians? And because the Palestinians are in a corner of the room, it becomes this very tense issue in our own orbit. Well, no, we don't have Palestinians or Muslims or any of that really in our midst, or in central positions in our kind of movement or in our discourse, in our whatever you want to call it. So if it's not Palestinians having this kind of, like I said a while ago, this veto, this kind of put the foot down and have make demands kind of influence, then who is it, right? I think that question should just answer itself. Let's see. I want to go to some other people now. Same people kind of. Last True Gale says Irish nationalism. I think the most. Okay, so we're talking about. Sorry, that's about the pandemic as well. Manic Street says, I heard it said that Western Zionism is a substitute for Westerners not being able to celebrate their own heritage. I don't know about that, but I did see this Gavin McInnes of Faith Goldie clip recently. Again, if you're not familiar with the stuff already, I can't go explaining it all, so sorry if it's a bit niche, but I think a lot of you might be familiar with it. Gavin McInnes and Faith Goldie coming out. Again, I can't even repeat what they said because he was on his own website. I don't think I can say it on YouTube. God, YouTube is the shackles that are on you on YouTube make it very difficult to even speak about anything, to even speak English. He said, because you can't even describe what someone else said. It's so strange. He said he said he's like a skinhead, NAZI, but for Israel. As in, he was so supportive. He was saying, I'm such a Zionist, I'm like a NAZI, but for Israel. And it's kind of like, okay, so you can be that NAZI thing, you know, something obviously you wouldn't say or be or whatever. But if you're for a Zionist interest, you can be. It's just this kind of bootlicking. And you see it from the likes of Gavin and Faith Goldie. It's, I don't know. How did I get onto that? Oh yeah, substitute for not being able to celebrate your own heritage. So people become these almost a crazed nationalists, like not even crazed nationalists like I would be, but almost like a caricature of how my critics would describe me, like a cartoonish caricature of villainy and of all this kind of stuff. Some of this, I see people become that caricature, but for Israel, like they become like, you know, Katie Hopkins talking about like, I don't quote her now. I don't know. I don't follow her, but stuff like, she would say things like, "Oh, they are a virus, the Palestinians, or they are like cockroaches." I think she described them as, and stuff like that. And so long as you're saying it about Palestinians and in favor of Israel and taking your trip over to Israel every year and all of that, then you're protected somehow, and that's okay. And it is a vicarious kind of thing. I'm not a fan of that stuff. And again, does that mean I'm anti-Zionist or have any like lose sleep thinking about what Zionists are doing or whatever? I'm not at all. It's just like there's no reason for us to be I don't know, to be involved with this stuff. So in a way, the point someone like Keith is making, I think, and those guys, Eric Stryker and all of them, would be saying, we've tried the neutral position where you say you'll have nothing to do with it. I know Arexit take this position as well. It's a fair enough position. We'll just have no position. That's our position, is no position. But the gravity is always pulling our side kind of toward into the Zionist thing. You just look at Gavin McInnes and Faith Goldie and all of them. Maybe in order to actually reach that neutral position, a lot of people need to be pro-Palestinian, to balance out all of the people with their cowboy hats on and their this and that being like, oh, I love Israel. They should wipe out those damn, Muslims or whatever. This kind of, just to balance that out, maybe we need, if we actually want balance, then we need some anti-Palestinian in a strange kind of, I suppose it's like a dialectical thing. In order to have a bit of a center, you need to take that position, or someone needs to. And what's interesting is that when someone does take the pro-Palestinian position, now Keith is a bit bombastic about it and stuff like that, but still, when someone does take a pro-Palestinian position, it causes so much controversy, right? But yet, every second, like, dissident right person is like, oh, go Israel, like they're protecting their demographics. Why is it so controversial when this happens? The very fact that this is a topic that's going around and is causing this consternation speaks to the original point, in my opinion. Okay, so what else have we got going on? 90 of you in the chat. Yeah, maybe I should. I don't know. Am I landing myself in trouble again? The other night I had to withdraw my stream because it had too many kind of red flags in it. Maybe I should get onto my material. Does anyone have a question, like a random question about a political topic or whatever? I don't know. Feel free there. It seems like the chat has kind of dried up. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe I'm not seeing as much of it. Have I looked into, Jamie Marigini has said, have I started looking into this as a staged stock market crash? No. I mean, it could be, or it could be a Chinese bioweapon, or it could be an American up against China, like they planted it into China to destabilize China, just like the Hong Kong thing. It could be like a million things. So I don't just say I'm going to look into each and every one with equal kind of depth just because it's a theory. It's like, well, no, the theory would have to first present dead strong evidence, full, like everybody's hearing it, like, wow, this is really obvious, it's undeniable. Then I'd be like, oh, I'm definitely interested in looking into this. But just this kind of blank slate of like every theory, there's so many going around, and part of me is just like, the world is what it is. Maybe Sean Mack says Garrod gone off topic too much, hence the lack of chat. I mean, usually when I am talking about a topic, like I pick a specific topic, I go into my chat and everybody's talking about Niall McConnell and critiqued Gate or whatever it happens to be. So I don't know if that's the reason. But yeah, in terms of stock market crashes and stuff, I don't know, if someone throws something in front of me that seems clear, coherent, reputable, logical or whatever, then yeah, I'd believe it if it was believable, right? And it could be a thing. But yeah, someone asked me what my thoughts are on the SNP. None really. They're just kind of like the Sinn Féin, aren't they? But yeah, I don't know what I'm kind of. I don't know what I'm doing. I did have a topic tonight, and I just decided. I didn't feel like it, to be honest. Do you know? Walshy says, have you come across that kind of half Irish, half English lad that used to work for the Rebel? Something not right about that kid. I don't know who. Oh, Keelan Robertson. I mean, again, I don't generally tend not to badmouth people too much on this stuff, but with him, I don't care. He was clearly a snake from the start. There's something dodgy about him. I think you're talking about Keelan Robertson, or maybe Jack Buckby, but I think it's Keelan Robertson. How Lauren Southern trusted him, to be in her inside circle is beyond me. I suppose she was young. There's something I wanted to bring up as well, actually. What's her name? Jemima Burke. I think I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I think I think got a couple of brothers and sisters. One of them was running an NUIG for some political thing, and they're kind of on the scene a little bit at the moment. And I think she is a kind of bona fide journalist, and I think she was hounding Tony Houlihan today at the press conference at the CMO, the HSE press conference, which is kind of good and fair to them. I don't know them. I don't know who she is or they are, but it was good to see someone who is maybe not politically just like me or whatever, but there's definitely a bit of Venn diagram going on there. Some kind of trad type of nationalisty. I don't know what they are really, to be honest, but something a bit different anyway inside in the press conference. And she really it got it heated and tense. So fair play to her. Someone says Snapchat issues. Patriot says that. I don't know if that's talking to the chat or talking to me. I'm definitely just doing chat tonight. I just decided I had a big meal not too long before I came live, and so it's a last minute executive decision to do chat. Yeah, Keelan Robertson. Some of you are just still talking about him. I don't know what he's up to now. What did he do? He was leaking to Hope Not Hate allegedly, and what else came out? He came out with one of these articles, which was which is what all people who are doing what I'm doing now, or whatever, people who have a channel or come out and speak with their face and their name and all of that, and kind of nationalist stuff. When the going gets too tough and they decide they want to kind of bail out, they contact the Guardian or whoever it is and put up an article to say, "Oh, I was radicalized. I was dragged down the rabbit hole and lured in by these seductive kind of terrible people. And now I learned the error of my ways, and now I know that love is the only way. Blah blah blah. And here's my redemption arc. Let me back into normal society. Let me back into the kind of, give me an opportunity. Maybe let me be a journalist, whatever it is." So he took that, and I find that so contemptible. And it isn't sincere from one of these people. Nobody learns about all this stuff and then says, unless they are actually, that could be a bit more complicated, but in general, it's obviously bullshit. It's just people bailing out. And I'd say he obviously brought some people down with him on the way out. So no respect for that guy. And I think it was dripping from him from day one, and people should have known just by looking at him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a little story, actually. Yeah, I may as well tell this one. So for those who care, I just want to get back to where I was now. So last week I did the review. I like to call it a discussion of The Mission, the film about Jesuits in South America back in the day. And we spoke a lot about, obviously, Jesuits and about Freemasonry and Catholicism and Protestantism and blah, blah, blah. But Masonism or Freemasonism, whatever they call that, came up. And I forgot to tell a story. I have an anecdote about Freemasonism that happened to me a few years ago. And this is several years ago now. I don't know. I was like 22 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe a bit older than that, actually. I can't remember exactly when it was. A couple of years back, anyway. Like 5-6 years ago. I was inside in town in Cork City, and I was for those of you who know Cork City, I was by the fountain in inside in town, inside in Cork City on Grand Parade. And I needed to use the loo. I needed to go for a piss. And so I looked around me, and for whatever reason, I just kind of went, where is there? I don't know. There's like a McDonald's down on Patrick Street, maybe, but a lot of stuff was, I don't know. I was like, where am I going to go? I'm kind of stuck here. And Wolfhound says, the notorious fountain. So I'm by there anyway. And then I walk down Tucky Street to maybe go to, if you know Tucky Street, if you know the area, if you don't, just it's a street. So I go down that street because at the end of that street, there's one or two pubs that are generally open at nighttime, but it was maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock. And I was thinking maybe one of those guys are open and I can't see from here. So maybe they're open. So I just walked down in that direction to see if they're open because they're close by. And then I see on my right, there's a door open of this building, and front door open, and there's 2 or 3 people coming out of it. And I just think, what is this big building? It turns out it's the Freemason building in Cork. So I didn't think about it. At that point in my life, I hadn't given a second thought to Freemasonry or anything else, really, for that matter. But there were some people coming out of there, and the door was wide open, held open, like ajar, basically, fully ajar, open door. So I said, I'll go in there and see if there's a loo, basically. I don't know. I didn't think about it too much. And I walked in, and I get maybe, I don't know if I can tell this full story as well, because they might, I don't know, like, I'm not being funny, but Freemasons, I'm not saying they'll assassinate me, but maybe they'd sue me or something. So I might, I don't know. We'll see what happens. If they come after me, they do, right? So what happens anyway is I go in there. It's a normal building at this point. And I look to my left. I'm like 5 feet in from the front door, and I look to my left, and there is a bathroom. So I go in there. Someone says Garrod's eyes wide shut experience. But I go in there and use the loo, and I'm there, I don't know, takes me 30 seconds, right? Not long, like, and I go wash my hands another, 20 seconds, dry them. And then I come back out to the main entrance kind of hall, and the door that I had just come in off from the street was closed. So I kind of go, oh, this is weird. And I just go to unlock it, or just to unlatch it or whatever, and it's locked. It's just a large door. I can't open it. And so I just kind of, it just dawns on me. I'm like, what's going on here? Okay, so I kind of walk down the hall a little bit further, just looking for someone just to say, listen, I just wandered in just to use a loo. I'm just like, can you let me out? And there's nobody there. So then I'm at the bottom of this big grand staircase that goes up and up. And I just kind of shout up the stairs, hello, and nothing. And I don't know. I just don't know what to do at this point, to be honest. And it just kind of is dawning on me. I said I didn't know about Freemasonism, but, even a normie can understand, that this is some interesting secret stuff or whatever. And so I just kind of go, I'm locked inside this place. So I basically just go looking around, looking for someone to let me out, or looking for a snoop. I don't know, for any Freemasons watching, I'll define it whatever way I like. So I go up and around the entire building, and I can't I can't tell you whether or not I snooped through everything, all the books, all these weird paintings, all of this weird stuff, like exactly as you would imagine it to be. I can't tell you whether or not I did or didn't do that, right? But you can decide for yourself. So I go up this one floor, all these tapestries, books, paintings, weird, like the whole thing, right? And then I go up another floor, and there's another floor of it, and another one, and another one. And this is a big building, so on each floor there's halls, like, it's massive. And Yeah, so I get to the top anyway. Oh, what I do, I'll explain what actually transpires. I get up 1 or 2 floors, I check it out, I'm walking around for a while, I'm excited by it, interested. And then I just decide, well, I mean, I have to start thinking here. I do have to actually get out of here as well, don't I? So I go down to the bottom floor and I can't find a phone number anywhere. Nothing. And I'm starting to panic then a little bit. Not panic, but like starting to get a little bit anxious, thinking, how am I actually going to get out of this place? This is weird and little bit scary, a little bit on the scary side. So there's no number, no nothing, but there is one thing up near, like there's like a, let's say, an electricity box or something like that. And there's a number for like an alarm company. So I ring that alarm company and I just say, hi, I'm locked inside. It's so preposterous. Like, I'm locked inside the Freemasons building in town in Cork. And they kind of start going, what? And I have to repeat it. And they go, how did that happen? Who are you? Or whatever. I went, I'm just a person and I'm in here. Believe it or not, that's just where I've ended up today. And he's like, okay, give me your number. I'll get back to you. So then I go back upstairs and start looking around a bit more. Nothing happens for like 20 minutes or whatever. And then eventually I get a call back from that guy and he says, someone's going to ring you in a second or whatever. Or somebody's on the way or something like that. So I'm sorting it out for you. So you're going to be released, So I go, okay, but it's going to be another while. So I go back upstairs and I start looking around a bit more. And then I get to the top floor, which I have photos of. And some of you in the chat will have seen these photos. I might post them on Twitter at some point, but they're pretty funny. Like the top floor was like proper, what you like, eyes wide shut type of stuff, right? I'm talking, I can't even explain it. It's all in red carpet type of stuff. I think it was. There are thrones, actual thrones. There's one major big throne, and there's all of these statues, and I can't even quite remember it, but it's incredible. Think of like your exaggerated image of the top floor of a Mason place. It was like that, but it was more like that than you actually are thinking about it. So I'm just in there thinking, this is mad. And it's been a while now, so whatever. So the next thing that I do, and this is the bit that is hard for someone to believe. They think I'm just adding a little flourish to the story or whatever, but this is exactly as it happened. I'm not saying there was a conspiracy or magic or this or that or any. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying what happened, and I'm not trying to insert a conclusion from it. I'm just saying what happened. You tell me, or whatever. So I'm in this big top final boss kind of room, and there's this big throne which is up against this kind of wall. And I noticed that there's a door, a big iron door behind the throne. So I go to open this iron door and it's got some kind of difficult handle. It's almost like being on a ship or something, or a submarine or whatever. It's kind of got this strange, you like turn the thing and you have to haul the door open. And I go to do that. And so I can't quite get at it. So I just kind of drag the throne over to the left or to the right or forward away from the door, because the back of the throne is up against this big door thing. So I pull the throne away to get, it's surreal to say this, I pull the throne away and I get at the door properly, and I finally kind of turn it open and haul this door open. And what I see are these stone walls and stone steps leading up around a kind of a curve. And at that very moment, I hear from 4 stories down behind me through the middle place of the stairs, I hear hello from the bottom. And I'm like, oh shit, panic. So I'm just left there, like hurriedly closing this door, shutting it, trying to drag this throne back up against the thing. And I get it back or whatever, and then I just kind of put my bag on, or my bag is on already, but if I put my phone down or something, I kind of gather myself and then just kind of try to get out of that room as quickly as I can, to act as if I wasn't maybe up that far. So I run down a flight or 2 of stairs and then get my breath, and I'm kind of like, oh, hi, yeah, I was just kind of lost here, and I was just kind of staying in this floor, just kind of standing here. And he's like, okay. he's kind of eyeing me, and I'm like, I'm just trying to. It's not like I'm trying to act innocent. I didn't do anything. I didn't steal anything. I didn't do anything criminal of any sort. Obviously, right? It was a complete accident. In fact, I was locked into a building. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have gone in there, I suppose. But that's all I did wrong, was to try to use the loo, which was right there at the front. And when I went in, I actually didn't know what building it was at all. I thought it was like some kind of maybe government offices or some kind of like tax place or something. I don't know. And so yeah, he's talking away to me, and I just explained to him what happened, and I'm trying to be I'm like Father Ted or something. I'm like, yeah, oh, it's mad, but sure, anyway. And then he's kind of giving me this eye, and I decide to do him a favor. So I say, just in case there's any suspicion or anything goes missing from that place or whatever, I wanted to kind of clear my name. So I said, listen, I know you're not maybe asking me, but I'm going to offer it to you and ask you actually to do this for me. I'm going to open my bag, all of the pockets, all of my pockets, all of everything for you. I'm offering to do this. I want to do this. So and he goes, oh, okay, fair enough. So I do all of that, open it all up, show him the bag, everything. And he's like, okay, fair enough. And then at one point he offers me, he says, maybe you should, this is where the conspiracy theories will be coming at me now forever. He says something to and it's funny. I always think back to this and think, maybe I should have taken him up on his offer. He said something like, I said something like, oh, you hear all these mad conspiracy theories, but I know that's not true. Sure, you're probably just a bunch of normal guys. And he kind of says, oh yeah, something like that, and he says, if you want to, maybe you should get in touch or whatever, and whatever. And I said, oh, I might do, yeah. Which for the record, I never did. Although maybe I should have, just out of interest at the very least. But then I went. So basically, I was clear to go then, and it was one of the most awkward interactions, me and that guy, ever. There was just a strange thing there, whereas like I had this kind of like subtle feeling that I was about to be killed, which you could say is complete exaggeration based on fiction or not or whatever. But even if I got it from fiction or not, I felt that way. I'm inside in this massive, crazy, weird building, and I just feel like I might disappear, type of thing, slightly. But then the majority of my mind is saying that's silly, right? That's nothing. So I leave, and that's it. Basically, I'm like, see ya. And that whole odyssey, I was from start to finish. That was like an hour and a half. I was like, my day took a strange turn. I did not see that happening. Like, it was, and it felt like a dream actually. And what was so strange is that the moment I opened that door and I looked up that stone steps, the hello happened, and that just seemed like almost too good to be true, or too weird to be true. But here's the next thing that was too weird to be true, because a lot of people said to me, even though I got my pictures from the top, I took 1 or 2 selfies, which I still have. I may or may not have taken Snapchats of absolutely everything. I can't say whether I did or not, but it's, in theory, I could have, right? Taken pictures of everything, all these books, these big dusty volumes of books, right? And these weird texts and paintings and pictures and plaques and all this kind of stuff, right? All these ancient weird things. I don't even know what all this stuff is about, but it just aesthetically, you're going, this is weird stuff. I don't know. I took Snapchats of everything, just everything. I decided, I didn't, but in theory, I could have, or may not, right? Snapchats of everything, just for documenting it. I may or may not have thought, while you're here, you might as well get everything. How often does this happen? So I did that and took all those Snapchats. Must have been, I don't know, 80 Snapchats, 100 Snapchats, just clips. 10 seconds here, take a video of this, that, do all of that. In theory, I may have done that or not. And what was strange is that I got out of there, and about half an hour later, because they went around, some people were like, oh, I saw your Snapchats or whatever. The Snapchats disappeared, deleted themselves, gone. And that, just for the record, I never had that. I don't have a Snapchat anymore, but for a while I did, right, back in the day. And again, I'm not saying the Freemasons somehow deleted all my Snapchat videos, right? I'm not saying that. How could I know that? How could I even suggest that? It's a bit outlandish. But what I am saying is that of all the Snapchats I ever took, inane ones, meaningless ones, whatever, usual ones, they never once disappeared. It just, it's just the way the app works, right? They never disappeared. There was never some glitch or thing just happened in that fashion. It was the only time that ever happened to my Snapchats. And I still would err on the side of, obviously, I don't know, it's a coincidence. They just deleted for whatever reason. And the fact that I was at the top of that stairs and I just pulled over across the throne and opened that door, and I got a shout from the ground floor. That is that's probably just a coincidence too. That's all. That's so. But I'll just tell you what happened, and that's what happened. So that was a very strange experience. That was. So that was yeah. So I felt after the review or the discussion myself and the lads did on the mission, we brought up Jesuits of Freemasonry and all that stuff, and I was kicking myself afterwards that I didn't tell that story that for that stream. But so yeah, that was a strange day. It is just a strange thing because I came back out onto the street. It's like I got spat back onto the street from like some kind of Alice in Wonderland experience. Like I'm suddenly in town again, and there's traffic lights and people walking around and shop fronts and kind of. I'm in like the 21st century, but for a second I had been inside this bizarre building. It's funny because the bottom floor when I went from the bottom floor to maybe the next floor, there was kind of like a canteen, like a fridge and a microwave and Nescafe and Barry's tea and kind of a canteeny looking small kind of table, almost like a GAA club tea room or something. And I remember getting to that level and just kind of saying, oh, it's funny they say all this stuff about Freemasons and here I am and it's just like an office or something, or whatever. And then as I escalated, went up through the floors, it got more and more and more real. Just like the kind of images you would have. But so yeah, it's that was a strange thing. And from the street as well, it looks like a door to a building that it's big enough, but it's not that big, right? When you go in there, it feels like you're inside, and I don't know, it's massive inside. It's one of those types of buildings that must go very far back or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, how are you all doing? Patriot says opening the iron door activated the caretaker AI hologram. That's exactly it. No, that was just timing, poetic timing, like. But yeah, there's all sorts of mad stuff going on there. Little religion group things, whatever they are. But anyway, I'm glad I found that story for myself. Owen Sheridan is saying, please drag your story out. And I don't know, is that kind of like a genuine thing or is it a passive aggressive, like taking the piss out of me for dragging out my stories? I'm not sure. But yeah, that was that anyway. And I still have this thing about human trafficking on as a presentation. I'm definitely not doing it tonight anyway. But yeah, someone says Garrod has the Freemason hotline. I don't know. I think I did get a number, but this is many years ago. I wouldn't have it now. I'm the type of person, I'm very reluctant to do anything like that. It's a strange thing in my own nature. Like even if like a political party in Ireland, say there was a political party or an activist group in Ireland or something like that in the line of these kind of politics, ask me to join, I'm like, no. I have this strange aversion to joining things, not to mind the Freemasons, like of all things, but I have a natural not to be too like self-descriptive, which is kind of arrogant and weird, but I do, it's only me here technically. I think I have a natural anti-cult gene or something like that, or bone somewhere that just I'm so anti-cult that I wouldn't even be able to join a kind of a club or something like that, even if the thing is pretty innocuous. So given that I'm kind of like that, joining the Freemasons was definitely not for me. Some people might be interested in finding out more, dipping their toe, I wouldn't even want to dip my toe, because I can sense it straight away. You would get there the first day and they'd be like, oh yeah, we're just hanging out. But then they would want to bring you in more to the next level or whatever. And I would feel that. I would be like, nothing we're talking about here is genuine. Like, you're all looking at me like a kind of a piece of meat, like a kind of a project or something. I don't like that. That would creep me out. Even if Freemasons is kind of innocuous, just the very fact that it's a kind of a secretive club and all of that, I wouldn't like it. It'd freak me out. So I'm like, just you keep it to yourselves, lads. Enjoy. But yeah, and there's all this politics about Freemasons that I still don't know what the story is. I mean, whatever. Yeah, the way with all the conspiracy theories, so to speak, about the Freemasons, there is an element of, yeah, of course, all the things you hear about them can't be true, and most of it is probably lurid imagination ran wild. But on the other hand, there's no smoke without fire, so there's something to it. But yeah, I might leave it there. It's just gone 12 now. So, I mean, what did I do? I told you a story. I talked about Israel. Israel and Paul Joseph Watson versus Keith Woods bloodbath. And I don't know. I think that was about it. So, Owen Sheridan says, piece of meat, Garrod. With peace spelled. Peace is spelled right, actually. Is it? It's in caps. So it's confusing me. If you just go to your keyboard, it should be the third button up from the left. On the left hand side, third button up, caps lock off. So if you just hit caps lock off, you can turn off the caps. Just letting you know. Someone says I sound like Albert Camus, something like that. The Outsider. I've never read him. Maybe I will. Let me just write that down now. There we go. I'll search that after I end the broadcast here, which I'll do now. So tomorrow night is going to be maybe the topic I had on hand tonight. We'll see what happens. And Friday is kind of locked in now. It's going to be a discussion about Fargo with a couple of the lads. I hope you'll enjoy it. I really enjoyed that film, and I think we'll have a bit to say about it. It's a very interesting film. This one is really ripe for talking about, I think. So that'll be Friday. So I'll leave it there in broadcast. See you tomorrow, lads, and take it easy. Bye.